ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to speak about a topic that people don't generally like to think about. It's still one of the most controversial, even 45 years later, and that is the topic of abortion, specifically abortion in the United States. Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines abortion as a medical procedure used to end a pregnancy and cause the death of a fetus. Many people take the definition of abortion much further, and next week, when I do my other speech, you'll find out that I take that much further as well. We're going to talk about the legalization of abortion with the Supreme Court decision in 1973 in Roe v. Wade. We're going to talk about the incidence of abortion. We're going to talk about the top reasons for having an abortion, given for having an abortion. We're going to talk about the demographics for women seeking an abortion as they were immediately following the Roe v. Wade decision, and then we're going to finally talk about the changes in those demographics over the last 40 years, and I think that's going to be a big surprise to you. To begin, Roe v. Wade is a landmark decision in 1973, wherein the U.S. Supreme Court legalized abortion in a 7-2 decision stating that a right to privacy under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution did extend to a woman's right to have an abortion. But that right must be balanced with the state's two legitimate interests in regulating abortions, those being protecting prenatal life and protecting women's health. The incidence of abortion, nearly half of all pregnancies among American women are unintended. About 4 in 10 of those are terminated by abortion. Is that not staggering? That's from the Guttmacher Institute. Each year, 2% of women aged 15 to 44 have an abortion. 2% of all women aged 15 to 44 have an abortion. Half have had at least one previous abortion. And according to the Guttmacher Institute, sadly enough, 3.7% of all women by the age of 45 have had more than 4 abortions. But we'll get into that next week. At least half of American women will experience an unintended pregnancy by age 45, and at current rates, 1 in 10 women will have an abortion by the age of 20. 1 in 4 will have an abortion by the age of 30, and 3 in 10 by the age of 45. That's also according to the Guttmacher Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2012, half the population of the state of Mississippi was killed by abortion. 1,212,400 fetuses were aborted in 2012. That information is from mccl.org. The top reasons for induced abortion. First of all, contraceptive failure. Over half of all women who have an abortion did in fact use a contraceptive during the month that they became pregnant. That does not mean during the incidence when they became pregnant, but during the month when they became pregnant. And they state an inability to care for or support a child. They want to end an unwanted pregnancy. They want to prevent the birth of a child with birth defects or severe medical problems. The interesting thing to me was that such defects are often unknown until tests can be run during the second trimester, when most abortions occur in the first 9 weeks of pregnancy and usually not past 12 weeks. So how do they even know? Again, that's for next week. This is not my opinion. This is informative. Also, from pregnancy that results from rape or incest, strangely enough, that only accounts for 0.1% of all abortions. And physical or mental conditions that might endanger the woman's health if the pregnancy is continued. The demographics of women seeking abortion. In the 1970s, according to the Guttmacher Institute, 33%, following Roe v. Wade, 33% of all abortions were of women ages 18 and 19. Another third were women in their early 20s. 54% of those women were childless. 72% were unmarried. Yay for the sexual revolution. Today, the demographics have totally switched around. In some places they're dropping, some places they're rising. Today, the incidence of abortion in women under the age of 20 is only 18%, compared to 33% before. Childless, only 39% are childless versus 54%. Unmarried has skyrocketed to 85% from 72%, which, as you can guess, means that we're having a lot more extramarital or premarital sexual relations. Today, the typical, in the 70s, following Roe versus Wade, the typical abortion-seeking female was either a young, scared Caucasian female in her teens, or a Caucasian middle-aged woman who did not wish to have another child. Today, that's totally switched around. Today, the demographic is that the typical abortion-seeking female is a 20-something single woman, single mother of color who already has one child. 42% of those women live under the poverty line. 27% are within 200% of the poverty line. So you take those together, and 69% of those women are economically disadvantaged. These are women that feel like they have no choice. And that's where I have a problem. But my opinions will come up next week. The reasons the demographics have changed: economic pressures, the economy's in the tank, changing patterns of contraceptive use. I hate to be vulgar, but how many times has a woman heard, "Oh, but baby, I can't feel it, it's not sensitive"? Loss of access to contraceptives for the poor has led to a huge explosion in unplanned pregnancy and therefore abortion. Poor women have seen a huge spike, as we discussed before, and women in the middle class have experienced a continued decline because they have open, ready access to contraception. In conclusion, no matter what your beliefs about abortion, no matter what my beliefs about abortion, and trust me, they are strong, it is a reality. It is currently legal due to the Supreme Court's decision in Roe versus Wade in 1973. Whether or not we agree, it's clear that many reasons exist for women making this decision. Over the last 40 years, we know that the demographics of desperation have changed, but only on the face. The desperation is the same. Whatever our position on the legitimacy of abortion, we owe it to ourselves and to those women who find themselves in these desperate situations, for whatever reason, to focus on the prevention of the causes for that desperation, rather than on the morality of the law or the morality of the young women that seek abortion. The primary concern that we should look for from our government with regard to abortion, if we want to decrease abortion, and I don't think that there are many of us that would argue that we want to eliminate the legality of it altogether, because there are certain justifiable circumstances. But I believe that the ultimate thing that we should be seeking, the solution that we should be looking after, is ways to prevent what brings women into these situations. Irresponsible men, irresponsible parenting, misunderstanding the nature of sexual relations, understanding contraception, sex education classes. All of these things are a contributing factor. And the absence of God in the classroom and the absence of God in many homes is probably the single most significant factor. So let's not look down on these women. Let's find out why it's happening, and let's let it remain legal in those circumstances where it's absolutely warranted. Otherwise, we don't have much of a bright future when it comes to abortion. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is abortion in the United States.